Kairetamathetai. Here's a little bit of supplemental information about Greek participles. So to begin with, what's a participle? A participle is a word that falls into the class of diverbatives, that is to say, words that are formed from verbs. And a participle, in particular, is a kind of a hybrid between a verb and an adjective. Frankenstein kind of a mixture, if you will. Like a verb, it has tense and voice, and like a verb, it can take a direct object or an indirect object. It can be modified by an adverb. But like an adjective, it has case, number, and gender, and modifies a noun or pronoun. If you think for a minute about participles in English, you will realize that we have 4 participles. We have present participles in the active and passive, so loving or being loved are our present participles, and then we have past participles also in the active and passive, having loved or having been loved. Notice that in those participles, of course, they're formed on the verb love, but they include other participles, being or having. Those are also participles, and that is something that you're used to with English. English uses participles a lot as auxiliary parts of other verbs. Greek does that a tiny bit, but very little, so don't worry about that right now. Just focus on the actual participles. In English, participles can be used as adjectives, so the loving mother baked cookies. Loving there is an adjective describing mother. It's signifying which mother we're talking about. It's the loving mother, not the short mother or the old mother. But participles can also be used to form circumstantial participial phrases. So in the sentence, loving Greek, I registered for more classics courses. The participle loving there is governing a direct object, Greek. It is modifying the subject of the sentence, I, and it's telling you the circumstances under which the main verb happened. So I registered for more classics courses in the circumstances of loving Greek. Now, Greek adores participles. They are used a lot and elegantly all the time, and it has a very full and nuanced system of participles. So in fact, instead of having just present and past ones, in Greek, participles come in present, future, aorist, and perfect. I've given you forms here, although I'm not going to spend a lot of time on forms. You can find those in your book. But what I'm giving you here are the masculine, the feminine, and the neuter nominative singular of each of these tenses. This, of course, is the verb thuo, to sacrifice. So thuon means sacrificing, and that's the present participle. Greek also has a future participle, which is formed on the future stem, thuson, thususa, thuson, and that is used frequently to indicate intention or purpose. Greek has, of course, an aorist participle, thusas, thusasa, thusan, or in the second aorist, you form it with the same endings as the present participle, but using the second aorist stem, so lipon, lipusa, lipon. Note that in this one case, the accent is on the ultima here, rather than recessive as it is in the other participles. And then there's a perfect participle as well. Greek has, of course, 3 voices, and there are participles for all 3. I gave you, as I said, the active forms, but we have also a full set of middle participles. So in the present, thuomenos; in the future, thusomenos; in the aorist, thusamenos; in the perfect, tethumenos; and then passive, which are sometimes the same as the middle and sometimes distinct. In the present, thuomenos, they're the same. The passive future is formed on the future passive stem, to thesomenos. The aorist passive is formed on the aorist passive stem, to thesathen. And the perfect is formed on the perfect stem, tethumenos. The meaning of participles, of course, is the meaning of the verb, and the voice is fairly straightforward, but the tense is going to, again, be a combination of time and aspect. Frequently, a participle is really only indicating aspect, so present, progressive aspect. Future, as I said, these participles are very frequently used to denote purpose or intention, and they tend to have the progressive aspect. The aorist participles will have aoristic aspect, and they are often indicating time prior to the time of the main verb, but not always. Perfect participles have perfective aspect, so they emphasize completed action. And just as I said in English, participles could be used either as adjectives or to give you circumstantial information about the main verb. This is the case also in Greek. If they're acting as adjectives, we call that the attributive function, and they will stand in the attributive position as adjectives do, so that's after the definite article. And so let's look at some examples here. Ho klepton hegemon, okay, that is the leader, the stealing leader. Soze rhetora, so the stealing leader saves the rhetor, and that's to distinguish that leader who is stealing from leaders who are doing other things but failing to save the rhetor. And of course there it's in the nominative, but we can get it also in the accusative. So ho hegemon ton klepton ta rhetora sozde, the leader saves the stealing rhetor. Ho tentimen klepsas, here we see the aorist participle, klepsas, stealing once and for all or having stolen. And here this participle can take the direct object tentimen, hegemon, to poiema ellipen, so the having stolen the honor leader left behind the poem. And finally, you can also use the participle, just as you can use any other adjective, as a substantive. So here, he sozdusa, this is the feminine ending, so we know that is the saving woman, the disgraceful leader saving woman. Okay, see, brilliantly Greek can do this where English cannot, but the force of this entire phrase is the woman who is saving the disgraceful leader, she will leave behind honor. As you can tell, when you put these into English, it's often much easier to use a relative clause or a subordinate clause of some kind, but Greek brilliantly is able to do all that simply with the participle. Again, as is the case in English, the participle can also be used to make a circumstantial clause. So if you look at this this first example, klepton ho hegemon rhetora sozde, that differs from the first sentence in the previous set, because klepton is no longer in the attributive position. It's not ho klepton hegemon, the stealing leader, but rather the leader saves the rhetora klepton while he is stealing. The leader saves the rhetor. There are several words in Greek that will specify the relationship between the participle and the main verb and give you more of a sense of exactly what that relationship is. One of these is kaiper, which signals that the participle here, klepsanta, is concessive. That means that the way we would express that in English would be with although. So in this sentence, so hegemon to rhetora kaiper klepsanta sozde, you have ho hegemon, the leader, sozde is saving, ton rhetora, the rhetor, kaiper klepsanta. Klepsanta is the aorist accusative singular masculine form of the participle of klepto. So the rhetor kaiper klepsanta, although he stole, right, or even having stolen, the even having stolen rhetor, the leader is saving. Another of these words is hos, which occurs quite frequently with the future participle. I notice here that I've given you the wrong form of the future participle. That is to say, klepson ton is a genitive plural. What you would in fact have in the nominative singular masculine would be klepson. Sorry about that. So just pretend that that says klepson there. Ho hegemon hos klepson tentimen to poiema elipen. The leader, hos klepson, in order to steal, tentimen, the honor, or with the intention of stealing the honor, elipen to poiema, left behind the poem. And then finally, there's a couple of words, hatta and hoya, which indicate that the participle is indicating cause. So the wise woman, because she is saving the disgraceful leader, she will leave behind honor. So that's a quick introduction to the delightful range of senses that participles can have in Greek. Be sure that you make yourself thoroughly familiar with their forms, because you will see them all the time, and I promise you will grow to love them.